Can't keep cat off a bench. Hello and welcome to another reading vlog. So this week I haven't yet decided what I'm going to start reading, but I will put a picture up here of whatever it is. Obviously I've got my April TBR in mind when choosing my books, but hopefully we're going to start the month strong. March was pretty decent. It sort of nosedived right at the end, but otherwise it was a fantastic month. So I hope to continue that. And it's just all about pretty much DNFing books that are feeling like they're going to be 3 stars, because I am aiming for that 4 up feeling. I want to really enjoy a book and have it speak to me and just entertain me and be memorable. So there's no point pushing through things that are just not doing anything for me and feeling mid. Besides that, I'm going out to brunch with my girlfriend today, going to the library to grab some new books, and then heading home before school pickup. So it's a pretty easy, simple day. Okay, I am back from the cafe in the library. Cafe was nice. I had a wonderful, beautiful catch up with my bestie, and I went to the library and just grabbed a few things because I've got quite a few things already at home. But I grabbed this book called Alone. It's a translated book and it's nonfiction, so it's, I guess, about the feeling of loneliness in today's society. I also grabbed this. This is called The Concierge. I feel like this is a litfic, maybe a bit of a thriller or a mystery as well. And I grabbed another nonfic because I haven't read much nonfic this year and I did want to increase that. So we've got 4 a.m. Answers to the Conundrums That Keep You Up at Night. So I think this is just sort of a general, well, I don't know, my boyfriend's drug taking. Okay, maybe this is not what I was thinking at all. Oh, these are just like my 2-timing neighbor. Is my best friend in love with me? I thought this was sort of the universal questions you might ask yourself, like questions about society or how the world works or biology and things in general, just random sort of questions. I think there's a subreddit about like thoughts you have while on weed, just random thoughts. But no, this seems to be like an almost, I'm addicted to cheating with him. What is this? Advice from Ask Shameless. Oh, this might be an advice column on dating, friendship, and self-development. Look, I might just give it a go, but I don't think this is about, it's not what I thought it was. I just thought it was general questions you just think about the universe and life and the world, not more so column advice. So this is funny. But that's everything for today, and I'm going to get started on some reading. Hello, I've got Blue on my lap, if that's why I'm in an odd angle. I don't want to move her. She's settled and she's keeping me warm. It's a very chilly day. The autumn crispness has started to come in. So I think we're on the last days of summer now, which is like breaking my heart because I'm a sun girly. I like to be warm. It's the only time I'm warm, but I'll make the most of it. At least I get to wear pants and my darker toned shades in my closet now. You know, there's a benefit to everything. So I have started reading. Has the month started off well? I would say no, but it's early days, you know. So I have read 2 books. So we start with Kiss of the Lions. This is one of the books I picked on my TBR. And this is a historical romance about a Scotsman. I've got so much hair on my face right now. I think I need like a little handheld fan to like blow it off. And his family member runs a gambling den. He's also meant to sort of seek out traitors. That's his job. And one of his targets has their son and daughter at this gambling den. So he thinks, ooh, this might be an in for me. And pretty much you've got a sister and brother, and the brother is a gambling addict, and he loses all the money. He loses all of the money. And lo and behold, they've got to come to some sort of agreement, you know. And the agreement they come to is that his sister will have to marry him, Mr. Lyon, Lord Lyon, to satisfy the debt. And for me, look, the writing just wasn't hitting for me. And just the setup was just, it was so rushed. There was no like tete-a-tete between the woman. Oh my gosh, I should figure out what her name is. I'm terrible with names. Lady Danielle. There was nothing between Danielle and Lyon. Previously, it's just he comes in, he's like, well, your brother's lost the money and now you and I need to marry each other. But don't worry, I'm not going to rape you. Like that's said multiple times. Not in that way, but I won't force you to do anything. But then they're told like, well, you have to make it believable that you would be wedded by scandal so quickly. So you do sort of have to take some of your clothes off and make out a bit so people can find you. And I don't know, I wasn't feeling it, and it wasn't my cup of tea, you know? And I know when I'm really enjoying historical romance, I will get hooked in it and I will read it from cover to cover. I won't put it down. And this wasn't the case for me. So I thought, leave it aside, put it down, pick something else. So the next book I picked up, I thought, let's go for my fantasy pick for this month. And that was Fear the Flames. Okay. Yeah, this is something. So it starts off with an incredibly info dumpy first chapter. It is all just geography and history lessons. And look, those were not my favorite lessons in school, let alone in a fictional book. Okay, like that's just not the way to start a book off. In this world, you've got a girl who was prophesized to be like a threat to her father's crown because she bonds with 5 dragons as an infant. So her daddy's like, well, you're a threat, so I'm going to torture you. She ends up escaping and she forms her own kingdom, guys. Kingdom, like, lady, you're in charge of like a couple of houses in a little tiny village. Do you know what I mean? Like I won't call it a kingdom, but that being said, she's having trouble keeping everybody fed in her little hamlet. And so she's got to go out like thieving and doing things. And she comes across this commander of the enemy of her father. And I believe they team up. He wants to take her father down through her kinship with the 5 dragons. And afterwards, he'll help her feed her little hamlet, you know. But it was just, it was not good. Okay, so this is meant to be like fantasy, you know, which has that kind of medieval feel. Tell me why this bitch is ordering vanilla coffees. And like, not just once, like all the time. Like I gotta have my vanilla coffee. And I'm just like, what? It took me out. Look, there's legends and lattes, I get it. But this one, it just felt very like, is Starbucks in your town? And the problem is that all of these young 20-something characters, not only did they feel juvenile, they were talking like millennials. And so it just felt off. It felt a bit silly in that way. I just couldn't get with the world building. I couldn't understand like what is actually happening. The dialogue was cringy as well. And they're meant to be enemy to lovers, but straight away they just go off into this banter and it just didn't feel organic in any way. And you say that she's linked to 5 dragons. She spends more time talking about coffee than you do learning about the 5 dragons. And for me, I'm just like, no, I didn't come here for that. I didn't come here for this chick's caffeine addiction. You know, I came here for the dragons. I came here for some badassery and I'm not getting it. So yeah, I could tell I was cringing too much at it and it was not making me feel immersed in the world. And I think with fantasy, world building is important. Magic systems are important. I need to understand these things, and none of that was happening here. And like I said, the love interest, which look, sometimes a really good romance can keep me invested in an otherwise terrible book, but that was not the case this time around. So I DNF'd it. DNF'd that one too. And I was like, this is a great start, Chanel. You're doing good. Doing good. So next one I picked up, this one, because it came in the library and it's a hot demandy book. So I've got a small time to read it. So I am currently 100 pages in. That's convenient. This is the Book of Doors. Some doors should never be opened. So in this world, you've got a young woman who has this old gentleman patron who comes and visits her at the bookstore she works at, and he dies. He just literally just dies while he's sitting there. And he leaves her a book, this leather-bound, odd book with lots of scribbles of doors in there. Turns out that this book can open doors to any location. So if you start thinking, oh, I'd really like to visit Paris, France, and you can visualize it, you open the door, boom, you're in Paris, France. But it turns out, so I've got, the cats are having a bit of a skit on my lap, skirmish on my lap. It turns out that a lot of bad people want this book. So there's a whole bunch of different types of books that do different things. You've got the Book of Luck, the Book of Pain, a whole thing. There's collectors and the bad guys. You've got a very, very over-the-top villainous dude in a suit. And you've also got equally a horrible woman who's literally called the Woman, you know, and strikes fear into the hearts of everybody that's heard of her, wanting to get their hands on this Book of Doors. And then you've got the librarian. So this is a man named Drummond Fox who was collecting these books, and everybody wants to get a hold of his library, but he's been MIA for how many years because of a tragedy that occurred and a lot of his friends died. And he also finds the girl. So the girl's also going around with her best friend. She lives with her best friend, and so this is what, so I have to say, I'm having to ignore a lot of things to continue on with this. The plot and idea of the book is what is making me persist. But these women have been written by a man. Okay, so there are a lot of unnecessary, yuck, negative comments made about their own bodies, about food, about their looks, and it's just too much. We don't need these girls. Every time they eat a piece of food to be saying like, oh, I really shouldn't eat this. It's going to go straight to my hips because everyone is fat in my family and I don't want to get fat. What is that giving to character development? Nothing. And it's just constant. And it's not just yucky comments, unnecessary comments about, weight and beauty, but there's sexist comments, there are racist ones. And that's this is a recently written book. You don't have to have villains make disgusting racist slurs. They can still be bad guys without having it written on paper. Like, I don't want to read racist slurs. So that is the biggest issue in this book, just the unnecessary comments that are really gross and ick. And a lot of people have issues with that. I did go on the reviews because I was at the point where I thought, do I just give this book up because I'm really hating this aspect? But I'm kind of intrigued to see how it's going to play out with the books. Like, I don't really know. So I'm going to continue a little bit more. I might push till halfway and then reassess. Do I want to push through, or should I just throw in the towel? So we'll see. I'm going to give it to 50% and then decide. But yeah, like, the idea is cool with these books, magical books, but look, these girls, I don't like them. I don't like any of the women I've met thus far in this book. So yeah, that's a bit of an issue. The Drummond Fox guy, he seems okay. Obviously the dude that died at the beginning of the book, he seemed wonderful, but he's dead now. So we'll see how we go. So then I also picked up, so I'm currently also reading on my e-reader, Annie Bot. So I think this is supposed to be like a feminist sci-fi. Oh, it's tough at the moment. I think I'm only like 50 pages in, and it's about a female robot who's basically used as a sex robot by a really gross guy. And then that guy brings another robot in, and this particular robot, Annie, has been sort of programmed to have more sentience. So her AI is meant to learn and change, and she's supposed to develop her own personality. And I guess the issues with that is, how is she going to continue to be subservient and wanting to just please her male owner, because he is an owner at the end of the day, if she's starting to form her own likes and dislikes and independent thoughts? How is that going to play? So we're at the point where it's starting to happen a bit. She's starting to become also curious about her own nature and wanting to learn, which is obviously, they want them to learn, but they also don't want them to learn, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of yuck stuff. So there's a lot of sex stuff with like dubious consent, obviously. But she's just a robot, right? She's not actually, a human being. So what does it matter? So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping it's going to start doing something other than just being yuck, like other than just being an example of misogyny, and that patriarchal domination of even women like entities. So we'll see how it goes. But so far, like I said, I'm willing to continue on. It's both of these books are sort of giving 3.25 star vibes at the moment. So it's enough to continue on, but I might reach a point where I might have to let them go. After those, if they both turn out to be also DNFs, I think I'll pick up some poetry. So this is The Love Her Wild by Atticus, because I find poetry just a really good cleanser, because it doesn't take me long to read them. And sometimes you get great poems and they just feel very energizing and revitalizing. And it's easy for me to read. It doesn't require a lot of mental effort. And I know Borderlands is coming out soon. And I didn't really play that. I played it a little bit with my ex-husband, but I prefer just to watch. I found it very entertaining. Claptrap was very entertaining. I don't understand why they didn't just use the same actor's voice for the movie. That would have made sense to me. I don't agree with the casting, especially Cate Blanchett. And I wouldn't have chosen Kevin Hart. I probably would have picked Terry Crews, to be honest. So I'm keeping an open mind, but so far I'm side-eyeing the casting of that film. But anyway, today I am heading out to grab some things before everything closes for Easter, because things do shut down here. And then I'm probably going to go to a cafe. I was going to go to like a cool one, but I'm feeling a bit depleted. So I might just, I know it sounds really silly, but I need energy to go to like really cool cafes. Whereas just a very casual, low-key cafe, I feel like I can just go and not be seen and eat and leave. Whereas somewhere really funky in that, I want to, have a look around. And I'm probably more open to making connections with people and chatting to people. So we'll see what I feel like, if I want to try somewhere fancy or if I just want to go to, any old cafe, we'll see. But I'll touch base with you when I get it back. Hello, so I've read the rest of the books for this reading vlog, so let's get to it. So we've got the Book of Doors, and if you recall, I was not sure if I was going to continue on. I did. Sometimes books just get me with a plot, and I need to know how everything works out. I've ended up rating this 3 stars. I'll tell you what I liked about the book. The premise. So having these magical books. Someone's at the door. Okay, sorry, it was just some Jehovah's Witnesses. It is Easter weekend. So the lady was wearing a lovely skirt and I let her know. Okay, so this one. I loved, the magical books. They were very cool. It was interesting to learn about each of the books and how they worked. Okay, so the rest of the book. The racial slur stuff and the comments about body weight and stuff, very annoying. It is very annoying. The villains were just, they were over the top and it was a bit torture porny. There was a lot of torture, guys, and being in that character's POV while they're inflicting the torture, it's just gross. It felt almost like a thriller in that way, rather than a sort of fantastical, magical realism mystery kind of book. So I didn't love the extreme violence in it. I would say though, my overall gripe, even more than the commentary, was the idiocy of the characters. So I understand that sometimes characters need to make dumb choices to move the plot forward as a plot device. However, I feel like this was done too many times. So the characters just made stupid choices after stupid choices, and they turned out exactly as you would think that they would turn out. And like I said, I know it was made to move the plot along and to have things connect in a certain way, but that's just frustrating. If your characters are so incompetent, it doesn't make for an enjoyable reading experience. And it was just, not only did they make silly choices, they made the same silly choice twice, like the same one, and it bit them in the ass. And then they're like, we'll just do the same thing again. I'm like, oh, you're not learning from your mistakes either. So that was just so annoying and so aggravating. And I was left feeling very irritated. And that's why it's a 3 stars. I think that the idea of the book is fantastic, but just the way it was executed and with the characters chosen and the way that the author was writing, it wasn't utilized to its maximum potential. So I've settled on a 3 stars at the end of the day. But yeah, did I really enjoy it? No, I did not. I will say though, the Book of Doors, initially you think, oh, it opens a door to any place. Well, it was used in a much more broad manner, and I thought that was quite clever. So I didn't think that way at first, and I thought, oh yeah, of course, that makes sense that it could be used in that way, and that's really cool. So yeah, this was the Book of Doors. And then I finished Annie Bot. By the way, I crocheted this. I had another go at making a garment, but I just don't like the way the crochet seams. It's like very obvious, and I don't think you can make it smooth. It's always going to be like a bump there. But anyway, this was my first successful like jumper. So back to our regularly scheduled programming. Annie Bot. This let me down so hard. This is supposed to be sci-fi. And in this book, I kept waiting for something to happen. I kept waiting for it to take a turn, a twist, for shit to go down, for Annie to get her Terminator on. I know it's kind of spoilery to say this, but it continues its trajectory. So if you start reading it and you're thinking, oh, I need something extra to happen, I need there to be like a dark angle or an action angle, it's not going to happen, my dudes. It is basically just a book about a very dysfunctional, abusive relationship between a narcissist human man and a codependent sex bot. And it's something I just don't want to read about it. I have a lived experience of that, minus the bot bit. And I don't want to read about domestic crappy relationships with shitty douchebag dudes and people pleasing women. And yeah, that's what this is. That's what this is. So I didn't like it. I've given it a 2 stars. It's just, you're just reading about a shitty relationship dynamic. And does the guy learn and grow? No. And does Annie? Maybe in a way, but also this is where the book was weak as well, that they didn't really explain how Annie was getting her sentience and her personality. They kept saying, oh, it's because of what Doug's doing. And I'm like, do you mean abusing her? In what way? Like, can you explain to me how this is working? Why is she special? Why does everyone want her CIU? Like, what's the deal here, bro? And it wasn't explained. And just, yeah, like Annie overall, just, no. The ending was so lackluster. It was so anticlimactic. So not a good time. Then I picked up, I'm just going into it so I can see the quote that I used, The Love Her Wild by Atticus. This is a book of poetry. These are Pinterest poems. These are the kind of poems that my mum would post to her Facebook page. They're very soundbitey. To me, they're cheesy, but I can see why they would have a general likability amongst the mass population. They weren't my cup of tea. They also had photography interspersed within, but the photography didn't make thematic sense for me, and it was a bit out of place. I was like, I don't get it. I just don't get it. My favorite poem of theirs, it's definitely one that you've probably heard before, and I'm just going to go read it so I don't get it wrong. I hope to arrive to my death, late, in love, and a little drunk. Yes, a lot of the poems had very, very, very short stanzas, but yeah, it just was a bit too basic. And then I picked up The Vitals. So this book does have an eye-catching cover. I did remember it in the bookstores. When I saw it came out, I thought, oh, I'll give it a go. And it's sort of like a memoir about the author's journey with cancer, but it's written from the perspective of her organs. And I thought that sounds really interesting. However, it didn't work for me. So I don't know if the author was attempting to be like humorous and angry, but it just felt weird. It felt weird, the way the organs were speaking. I just didn't get into it. I just think it's just not for me. The style of it wasn't for me, and I wasn't finding it funny, and I wasn't finding it interesting. I actually found it abrasive. So I think it's just me not fitting with the style of the way that this book was written, and also the way the organs were talking. I was just, no, I could tell, like, I'm not gonna get on with this. So I DNF'd that one very, very quickly. And then I decided to pick up a nonfic. So this is Mind Over Money, Understanding Your Money Behavior. Look, for my profession is, I guess, what you would call an investor. So I'd say mostly what I do is day trading, but I also have stocks, bonds, ETFs, crypto, all that stuff. I'm into the finances. So this didn't give a lot to me, but I could see why it's probably maybe a good beginner book. That being said, they do say that a lot of your finance behavior comes from your parents, and that you're heavily influenced as a child, whether you're going to be a spender, a saver, an investor, yada, yada. I'd say that's probably maybe true to a certain degree, but I don't know. But then being the children of immigrants, I think it's a bit different. So I'm not sure how applicable that is to everybody, that, most of your money habits come from your parents' money habits. As a child, I was definitely a saver. Every cent I got, I just put straight to the bank. I think maybe once or twice a year, I'd allow myself to buy a book, or I think at one stage I bought myself a Tamagotchi, but otherwise I put all that money in because I just wanted to be financially free and not reliant on my parents from quite a young age. But as an adult, I'm an investor in terms of their profile. I am happy to take risks with money in order to hopefully make more money. So I try to have my money like work for me. So not just sitting in investment in savings accounts, which is still something that I do. I have money in savings accounts, earning interest, but I like to have a diverse portfolio. I also invest in real estate too, obviously. So what I did learn from this was it reminded me to take a look at my biases. So they do talk about a lot of different biases that you might have. And I'm acknowledging that I do have a negative bias. I'm a bit of a bear in terms of the markets and the social economy. And I do tend to let that influence my futures trading in ways that probably are not always beneficial. So I did come away with something. I came away looking once again more at my biases and how I can restructure them so that I am more, what's the word, objective with my financial decisions, rather than being influenced by my biases. But that was the most interesting for me. Look, at the end of the day, how they're summing it up, invest some money. Don't just leave it all in a savings account. It's pretty much just a diversify thing. Put some in super. So we have super, I think in America, you call it the 401k. Put in super, invest in some stocks and some bonds and some ETFs, property if you can. They don't recommend crypto. So I'd say that they're a bit anti-crypto in this book. But yeah, they're just like, do something, even something small, just so that you are putting, more eggs in your basket. And obviously they mentioned budgeting. You can't talk about money, I guess, without budgeting. But, yeah, it's interesting. It was easy to read. I'd say it's probably more skewed for Australians because it focuses more on like Australian markets and sort of Australian finances and things of that nature. But I got something from it. At the end of the day, that's what I hope to get. Did I learn something new? Did I find a way to improve my own life from something I read in this? Yes, I did. So that was decent. I also just wanted to say thank you to all of the people who leave comments. I really appreciate them, and you're so lovely and nice. And it's like hard when you're on here because it's such a vulnerable thing and you think you've got that imposter syndrome screaming in your ear. But anytime someone says something really lovely, I do appreciate it. I also wanted to mention I thought that I might do a video in the future based on my viewers' recommendations. I've had some viewers recommend some books to me, so I'm writing them all down. And like I said, if my library has them and I haven't read them, I'll give them a go. So if you wanted to recommend a book to me, feel free, because I will be doing a video about that in the future. But yeah, this week wasn't the greatest start to April, but I'm not put off because I have just read a book that was really good, but you'll have to see the next vlog to know what it is. But yeah, I think April will be another fantastic month. But until next time, stay wild, Star Child.